happens when creativity becomes more than expression and turns into entrepreneurship, community, and transformation? Welcome to the Creative Life Podcast, the place where creatives go for inspiration. I'm Dr. Jessica Olson, creative coach and your host, joined by co-host Dr. Jacqueline Gibbons. Today we're joined by Obed Sanchez-Liborio, an interdisciplinary artist, chef, entrepreneur, and creative visionary based in Omaha, whose work blends food, visual art, storytelling, memory, and cultural identity into immersive artistic experiences. From building Granola into a one-of-a-kind underground dining experience to opening a physical art studio centered on teaching, accessibility, and community. Obed's journey is rooted in resilience, reinvention, entrepreneurship, and authentic expression. In this episode, we're exploring entrepreneurship, creativity, identity, building artistic spaces, and how art can transform both people and communities. Whether you're an artist, entrepreneur, or someone trying to build something meaningful from lived experience, this conversation is filled with insight, honesty, and inspiration you won't want to miss. Obed, welcome to the Creative Life Podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so to start us off, do you remember your earliest connection to creativity, or the moment you realized art was going to be part of your life?
You know, I do have this memory, and I always thought about it as my earliest memory encounter with art. Although, as I thought about it a little bit more, I feel like it definitely wasn't my first encounter with art, probably just the first time that I remember. But a family member had newly arrived to the U.S., to Omaha, and they had their first day of school. They enrolled into the Omaha public school system, and they came home with homework. The homework was, like the math that you color in, and so he came home with markers, crayons, and I remember the family kind of gathering around our cousin, and kind of like, I remember in a way trying to help with the homework, just because English isn't our first language, Spanish is our maternal language, and so it was just a memory of a little bit of excitement the first time I remember seeing art materials, a little bit of anxiety, because I knew that I was next in line to attend school, to be given homework, and that was a little scary to me. So that's my first kind of memory that I remember.
Wow, that is such an interesting memory, and having coming home, seeing this art, and then also knowing that you're next, and that's your introduction to it. So having that moment, then what actually drew you to creative expression after that?
Well, that memory, I feel like, just really solidified to me how I felt, just a type of excitement that I hadn't really experienced to that point. So I just remember feeling like, oh yeah, this is for me, like I can't wait till he comes home tomorrow with this homework, so that I could use him after he's done. And I feel like throughout school, I was kind of just very excited to, be allowed the opportunity to use art materials, to be exposed to art materials. And I was kind of just waiting till I was old enough, I guess, to start working with clay. I feel like I've always wanted to be given that opportunity, but, in at least in Omaha public school system, we didn't really have that up until high school. And I chose the high school based off of them being an art magnet.
Oh, that's beautiful. All right, so this is off script.
Yeah.
But so I went to your opening gallery,
Mm-hmm.
and there was this dish, and you were talking about it. It was over here, kind of like on the corner on the table, and it was a drink dispenser. And I think you had just recently made it. You made some kind of comment about it. And I thought to myself, only a true artist can make something at the spur of the moment to feel a gap like that. And it was so beautiful. And I was just like, I didn't know that that was just a piece that you just threw together. You're like, yeah, I need this for this drink, because you didn't even have the top for it or
Yeah.
anything. And I just heard you, because I always listen, when I'm going to these art events. And I was just like, wow, Obed has something special. And there is something that you create with clay. And even there, you had everything laid out. And I said, I could see myself entertaining with these pieces. You bring something to you. It's not like something I can go get at a grocery store or at a big box store. So I could see how you had this gravitation to clay, but as a person appreciating your art, I could see you in it. And that is really cool.
Well, thank you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
and,
love it.
and again, thank you very much for showing up, supporting, and bringing a little friend. And yeah, I mean, that piece was in the back of my mind ever since I broke the glass one that I had. I was washing it out. I feel like I was storing glazes in it, and I was washing it out with cold water, then put some hot water, and it cracked. So I've been thinking about it for a few months, and I kind of just leave things to the last minute. But it all worked out. But that was the piece that I was mostly nervous. I really needed that piece to come out intact. So I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, I did. It caught my eye. I was like, man, this is really cool. This is like I love that piece. I ended up walking away with a jewelry piece, but that piece, that was the one that stuck with me the most from that whole entire show. Yeah,
Thank
I
you.
really
Yeah,
liked it.
that piece actually, I am using it for the Jocelyn Castle exhibition.
Are
Yeah, this
you?
month. It's the May 21st is the opening reception with a few other artists.
Okay, so then that
Yeah.
means I could go look at it and see
Yes.
it again. Okay, I like this plug for it
I'm
because,
writing it
yeah, the Carriage House at the Joslin. So for
Yeah.
those, we do have an international audience. So for those that are not in Omaha, Joslin Castle, it is a historic location here, and they often showcase artists from around the metro area, and it is a wonderful place to see the voices that are making Omaha special. All right, go ahead, Dr. Gibbs, take
Okay.
it away.
So, your work moves across food and visual arts, ceramics, storytelling, and immersive experiences. Why has it been important for you not to stay confined to one medium?
Well, I honestly think if you're not willing to move around to keep going, then you just die. So I think that's why it's important to, figure out a way. If you need to go that way, you do so, and you just keep it moving.
Wow. I I would I'm just I would give my right arm to be good at one of these things.
Man, I know, I know, I know.
I'll bet you have it all. So, do all forms of creativity feel connected to you?
Um, Most definitely. I feel like they all come natural to me. And, as of the last few years, just through doing, work of getting to know yourself and that type of stuff that I feel like every human being can relate to because we all kind of go through that. I feel like in part it has to do with, just my background, my ancestors, where I come from. And I have my grandmother, my dad's mother is a very creative woman. My mom cooks, and through that side of the family, there's creativity, and through my dad's also, she's known as a woman of the arts in her town. It's El Ciruelo, Oaxaca, which is part of La Costa Chica of Mexico, and I think that just being lots of cultures coming together to create us is maybe the reason why, I dabbled in gardening and in ceramics, painting, food, and all of that. So I know that I am created and that none of these attributes were, I gave them to myself. So I know that they come from somewhere. And, if you follow it all the way back, it's from the creator and through my ancestors, through DNA, I believe.
I mean,
I like the
that's
interconnectedness.
absolutely,
It's beautiful.
and I mean, that's legacy in its greatest form.
It is.
And just to think of what legacy you will leave,
Absolutely.
from that as well. I love this. So Many artists struggle with the permission to call themselves artists or to take up space creatively. Do you ever wrestle with that?
Um, to call myself an artist, I feel like from a very early age, that's what I wanted to be. So kind of there's a time between, okay, this is what I want to be, and then when do I want to be that? And I kind of always in my mind as a kid, as a young adult, I said I want to be an artist as soon as possible, but if there's things in between, by the time I'm 30, I want to be an artist. And taking up space, it's a whole big topic, a very wide topic, but I do giggle a little bit because I feel like it's easier for me to take up space than to step aside and say, you know what, if this is a problem, if me being here is a problem, then I am willing to step aside, which I do believe that there is beauty in that, and that beauty is part of the art making and the process. So I would like to do that a little bit more. You know, to take up space, sometimes you have to remove people, push people out the way. And sometimes that you don't feel that great doing that. Sometimes it is necessary. There's a time and a place for everything. But, finding the balance of when is it okay to take up space? When is it okay to step aside and let the space be occupied by something else?
Right.
That's interesting. I gotta dig in on this one. This is juicy. Okay. So, and it's a little controversial also, especially for emerging artists or for artists that are coming back. So let's say that they were creating art, they stepped away from art, and now they're coming back and they're saying, man, I don't know if I can occupy those spaces again. I don't know if I can belong in that space again. Or for the emerging artist who's saying, well, there's already people there. Who am I to say that who am I to go for this? I mean, there's only so many artists that can be part of this exhibit. If I get a yes, then somebody else gets a no. But do I deserve the yes? And so for artists that are navigating, that is actually something very difficult to navigate. Because yes, we're a beautiful creative community, but artists also are competitive. There is competition in the arts, just like there's competition in sports and other industries as well. So I think it's interesting how you're saying that there are times when, yes, you use discernment, right, to say, I'm going to take up the space. And then I know that me saying yes or getting yes means other people are getting no's, and I'm at peace with that. But then there's other times that you said, like, I am actually going to give somebody else space. Can you tell me about the time when you would say yes to giving someone else the space? Like, how would someone know to navigate that?
I think to every person, it's very personal. For me, and it comes down to when I'm about to fall asleep, am I content with my actions of that day, And if you are completely okay with the way that you manage that situation and the way that you squeezed into that space, then go ahead and do it again, But if something bothers you right when you're falling asleep, then the next time you'll have to get creative and think of another way to ask for a space, to convince that other person that you are worthy of that space. Because to me personally, when I was younger, I tried it out, and I said, let me see what it feels like to demand this space, this place. And that's when I kind of started realizing, in order to always do that, you have to be willing to become a warrior per se, right? Somebody who is willing to go into battle, push people out the way, get out of my way, get out of my way. And that's why I feel like I do believe that there is beauty in sometimes saying, you know what, today I'm not going to fight, and I'm going to choose internal peace. And I want to go to sleep completely content with my decisions of today.
That is beautiful advice and wisdom. And only someone who's made those hard choices, and like as you said, I've done both, right? Only someone who, and this is why mentorship is really important too, and getting an artistic community, because there's someone who's already gone through that path, and maybe you will take the same path as them, but there's wisdom that can be gained there. That becomes your foresight of saying like, hey, you know, if your conscience doesn't let you sleep at night, perhaps you need to rethink the decision that you made the next time. You know, it's your internal piece, like you said, it's very personal, but I can still take your advice and say, Jessica, were you okay with that decision? Were you okay with saying yes or no? Were you okay with taking that opportunity? And if it bothers you, ask yourself why. Yeah, that is great.
There's not a guidebook, excuse me, on how to navigate the creative space.
There's not.
So
It's ever evolving. There is
yeah.
not.
Yeah.
You're constantly, you're pulling, you're drawing. So yeah. All right. So let's talk about, so a lot of people of Omaha, like we first experienced you through your work through Graniola, which became far more than a dining experience. And what was the original vision behind it?
Well, so going back to my childhood, I always knew that I wanted to grow up to be an artist. Um, so in high school, you know, I got a hold of some clay and I began to practice that art form. And I remember going out into the streets of Omaha, ready to sell my work. And I kind of realized might take a lifetime to be able to convince people that I'm an artist is the emotions that I felt at the time. And I was in a tough spot just because well, I'll skip why, but I couldn't just go out and be employed. So I was like, I need to get creative and I need to come up with a way to, you know, make money, take care of myself. So I decided to learn how to bake. My mother, you know, started baking around that time, and I got on YouTube, you know, inspired by her. I got on YouTube and just learned how to make cookies. Looked up a cookie recipe. A school counselor, Ms. Moriarty, gave me her recipe and a big bag of chocolate chips just to get me going, you know. And I made 100 cookies every day after school, sold them in the hallways for 50 cents to the kids, to the teachers. I got suspended a few times,
Oh my
but
gosh.
that's kind of why I got into baking. Also, baked goods are just my weakness, and I love all types of donuts. But it was out of necessity, and going back to, you know, if you don't move, you just die, and it's important, you know, to keep living, and that's where that came from. But I always had the desire, when the time is right, when I know enough people, and when I feel like there's enough people that are willing to support me, I'm gonna make the switch. And I ended cooking. I went to work landscaping. I still currently do landscaping, and now I'm kind of trying to think of a creative way to merge landscaping and ceramic art together.
I love that you're still innovating. You're still moving forward. Like you said, if I don't keep moving, I die. And so you're in constant motion. Ms. Moriarty, are you Eagle by chance? Central Eagle?
I went to Omaha South High.
Omaha South High. Okay. I feel like she was at Central at one point in time. That name, that teacher name sounds very familiar. Okay.
I need to tell you, my jaw dropped when you said, thinking of your ceramics and landscaping and thinking landscape architecture, and I'm like, I have visions of sugar plums dancing in my head, like, ooh, what's next? I can't wait. You know, I love that, and I need to, you've spoke to ancestral traits that you've received just through legacy. I would venture to say entrepreneurial spirit is something you were also born with. Getting suspended over selling cookies.
Yeah, you know, I definitely used to see that word as part of me, and as I get older, I'm more interested in detaching it from me. I like to think I had to be an entrepreneur, but really I was born to be an artist. And you know, when all of this is over, I won't have entrepreneurship anymore, but I'll still have the soul of an artist. And but yeah, I feel you.
That's interesting.
Yes.
Okay, so the fact that this is going to be coming next to Xavier's conversation, I love the fact that yours is a little bit different. And that's why we like creatives, because for him, entrepreneurship and artistry, there's a necessary aspect of being entrepreneur to artist. And then I like how you're bringing us a different perspective and saying, like, at my soul, I'm an artist. I'm actually detaching myself from the entrepreneurship. I had to be entrepreneurial. Like you said, you had to figure out a way to work. I mean, we're all in America, right? And it is expensive here. So you have to figure out a way to keep moving forward. But you said, hey, I'm still staying close to my center, which my center is art. I am an artist. That is my true identity. So that's interesting. Like you always see all the different changes between the different artists, and especially when
And
it
you
comes
know,
to entrepreneurship.
I feel like if we sit down together, we're talking about the same thing. You know, we're just at different stages of the conversation.
Yes. Yes. Because he's at the
Nuances.
beginning, and you're more you're midway, maybe. Because you've already had other businesses and other ventures. So this is not your first venture, your art studio. This is probably your second or your third, right? Venture?
Something like that.
Yeah, right? Something like that. So you've done a couple things, and I like that. All right, go ahead. Your question's next.
Okay, so this year marks a huge milestone with the opening of your art studio. What inspired you to take the leap into creating a permanent physical space for your work and community?
So first, I do have to share, it's probably not permanent, just because my work is heavy on community support. You know, I could be an artist at my house and just look at it by myself, and for me to want to go into such a big space, lots of things led to that point. So I do hope that I continue to get community support. The grand opening was everything that I needed it to be. I had to skip 2 months of paying my apartment rent to move into this spot, so I was able to make enough to pay my rent and the first month's rent and the first month's deposit. So it was great. The opportunity came to me by a fellow paisano that is invited me into that space. He was on the lease, and he said, hey, come check it out, see if you like it for 3 months. I'm on the lease, I'll let you come in here. His name is Josh. His store is right next door to mine, Lost. And it was the middle of winter, very bad timing. Since I work landscaping, I get laid off in the winter. And I was just kind of scheming, how am I gonna survive this winter? And yeah, it was a leap of faith, and it all worked out. Here we are, and I've always wanted to do it, like I said, so it was just a culmination of all of those things, and it worked out. And I'm very grateful that I was able to do it, and I did turn 30. So
Congratulations. Happy birthday.
thank you.
Yeah. What a wonderful way to bring in 30.
Yes.
I like that.
The next chapter unfolding in your life. Okay,
Yes,
I
and
think I know the answer to this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Opening the studio, did it feel exciting, terrifying, or both?
Yeah, definitely both. Terrifying because it was the middle of winter, January. Exciting just because, of course.
Yeah.
But what I noticed there were a lot of other artists there. There were quite a few artists there. I was like, oh, that's Ariel was there. Teresa Statsny, who's the host of the Becoming Obsessed podcast, was there. There were a lot of other artists that showed up there. So I think that you created a unique opportunity for Omaha to not only show up for you, but to also show up and just say, like, hey, our community is here. Did you notice that too? Like, you had a lot of people show up. It was really, I thought it was beautiful. I was
Thank
really
you.
happy there.
Thank you. I do, when I think about my work, I mean, a lot of artists, we have these thoughts of, is my work valuable? I'll skip all of that and just skip right to, today I've just been thinking, I think that through this work, it has been very apparent that we need each other you know, and we're willing to give, you know, hey, I'll make you floral arrangements. I opened up this spot. They come help me clean. Lots of photographers take photos for me. Ariel, I met her through trading food at Grainolia. Her and her husband came and she gave me photos. Very great photographer, and Josh Fu as well, just trading. So yeah, it's been really nice. And I was thinking today, like, man, we could probably just be self-sustainable at this point. Of course, that's a joke, but it's nice.
It is nice. And Omaha shows up for itself. So it is really nice. All right, we're almost to the end. So, Dr. Gibbons, give one more question.
Okay, so your journey is a powerful example of creative entrepreneurship. I know that's just an aspect of you. You are the creative at heart. When did you first realize that being an artist solo also meant becoming a business owner?
Maybe a combination of realizing I'm in America, far away from home, from family, and really not knowing that many people in Omaha. You know, I was like, I got to do this by myself. And, you know, when I was up 2 days baking, 2 days straight, you know, just kind of hoping one day I'm going to find enough people that are doing the same thing, that are willing to support me and help me out. And I think we're kind of...
All right.
So you're wondering if, you were saying people there to support you. So for creatives listening right now who feel discouraged or overlooked or afraid to pursue their ideas fully, what would you want them to hear?
I mean, one of the greatest advice is that I've heard, you know, from King Solomon, is that there's a time and place for everything, you know, and sometimes it's time to rest, sometimes it's time to work hard, and then enjoy your work, you know. So the time will come, and you know when you have to get up and try, and when it's time to just wait a little bit. Patience and art, you know, go hand in hand.
It does. Well, this has been a beautiful conversation. I am so grateful for you coming on here and sharing your experience with our creatives at home. So for those that are watching and they want to follow you, where can they find you on social media, a website? How can we support you?
Yeah, so for now I am at 1125 Jackson Street. The entrance is in the alley, the green doors, right next to the workshop, Joe's Collectible and Lost. And on social media, I'm under Sanchez-Liborio O. But if you type in Sanchez-L, I'll pop up.
Okay, I like it. Look, there's a shortcut for this. Awesome. Well, guess what? We are definitely going to be sharing your information in the show notes as well. And for those that are watching at home, thank you so much for tuning in. And if you like this episode, please make sure you like it, you share it, leave a review. That's actually how people are able to find us, and the algorithm recommends us to others. So until next time, remember that your creative journey is worth it.